Thank you very much, Martha.
All right, well, the question continues. How does Iran play into the war on terror? According to a report in London Telegraph, Iran's Revolutionary Guard has been training al-Qaeda terrorists to attack coalition forces all over the Middle East since 2001. They also report that Iran is busy trying to groom the next bin Laden. And we want to welcome to the show Mara Rudman, who joins me now. She's a former deputy advisor of national security under President Clinton and presently a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Mara, good to have you with us.
Thanks for being here.
So what do you make of these reports that there's a specific individual that they have in mind that they would like to see groomed to be the next bin Laden? How can we sort of justify that activity that we're seeing and the nuclear activity and the fact that they want to push Israel off the map with sitting down and discussing a better future for the Middle East?
Well, listen, I think there is no question or little question that Iran is a bad actor here, is a threat to U.S. security, a threat to world security. I think you have to put that in one pile and then think carefully about what the best approach is to dealing with them. And some very serious players in the world, including former Secretary of State James Baker, has said, listen, we've got to look at a variety of tools available to us, and that includes bringing Iran into the conversation, figuring out ways to talk to them. And we got to be clear, you talk to all sorts of people you don't agree with, you talk to all sorts of people you don't trust, and you figure out what your options are in dealing with those individuals and dealing with those countries.
James Baker, of course, is maybe one of the greatest diplomats of our time, and he has done a lot of talking, and he's a shrewd political player. But the question is, I guess the goal to achieve in Iran might be, a change of the government eventually there at the will of their own people, and a more stabilized government that's less interested in terrorism and in nuclear technology and more interested in building an economic force of its own and a position in the Middle East. So, how do you reach that goal by sitting down and talking when what they seem to be focused on is nuclear weapons and getting rid of Israel?
Well, listen, I think one of the things that our government and our administration has to decide in terms of what's in the United States' interest, is it in our interest to try to achieve a change of behavior from some of these very problematic governments, or is the only way to achieve our interest to achieve a change of regime? And sometimes the change of behavior is going to be more immediately in the United States' interest than the change of regime. And that's going to be a fundamental question with respect to Iran.
Indeed it is. And how optimistic are you about a fundamental change in behavior on the part of Iran?
That's obviously an open question. I think we should stay tuned for what Secretary Baker has to say, for what the Baker-Hamilton Commission, the Iraq Study Group, has to say, because I think that is part and parcel of how we look at what we do with respect to U.S. policy towards Iraq, because Iran is increasingly a key player there, and we have the broader question of what we do to deal with the Iran nuclear threat as well.
And you believe that Iran nuclear threat is indeed a nuclear weapons threat?
I think it increasingly appears that way.
All right, Mara, thank you very much. Mara Rudman joining us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we're going to take